Hello, Chattanooga. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. The show is Clutch with Keon Rose. Or you were listening to Sports Talk with Sam Jordan. So we've got some things to talk about. College football offseason. The NFL offseason has already started. Season for some teams, but the rest of us, right? The offseason is a festivus for the rest of us, right? Everyone else has started. We started looking for coaches. We started figuring out what our draft boards are going to look like. You're not paying attention to that very much if you're the Vikings, Eagles, Patriots, and Jags, right? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the fact that the Jags are still in this thing, that there are some people who stand to make a substantial amount of money from betting on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm not going to really get too much into the NFL today because I do my picks on Thursday. These games are interesting. They're exciting. There are only 2 games left. And I don't want to tip my hand, right? I don't want to ruin my show for Thursday. If you want to find out what I think about any of these things, you're going to have to tune in on Thursday. But today, I do want to talk about the NFL with regards to the NFL draft because there are a lot of college players headed to the NFL draft, right? And one interesting thing, actually, about the players headed to the draft is that there's a lot of underclassmen, right? Which is something that we've seen progressively more and more in the NFL. It used to be when you looked at college basketball, let's say, all 4 years in college. And then guys started going earlier and earlier and earlier until guys were leaving right out of high school. And they implemented a rule, one and done rule, where you go to college at least 1 year, at least one, but you could go more. Most people that can leave after 1 year, leave after 1 year, right? Like you just don't leave a bunch of money on the table if you're going to be a high draft pick. And we're seeing it in the NFL as well. Now, the NFL doesn't have the luxury of taking a guy who's a freshman. If they could have drafted Leonard Fournette as a freshman, they would have done it because Leonard Fournette was physically there already. They could have taken that guy as a freshman, they would have done it. But usually you don't want to anyway. You want guys to physically grow into their bodies. You want guys to physically develop. But teams will draft people on potential anyway. And so, yeah, you look at guys and go, well, it's a slippery slope. But the NFL doesn't have the luxury of that rule. Stay junior. You have to be out of high school 3 years before you enter the NFL draft. And so a lot of underclassmen are heading to the NFL draft because it's the earliest that they can go. And especially in the SEC. And I think this is interesting because there are a lot of very talented players in the SEC. And there's some players that are leaving as underclassmen that I'm actually very excited about. Watch some of these guys on Sundays. Myles Garrett did a lot of things for the Cleveland Browns. Didn't help them win football games because, there's only so much a defensive lineman can do. There's really but only so much. Derek Barnett has been absolutely huge from out of Tennessee. He's been absolutely huge with the Philadelphia Eagles in their playoff run. He's given them a pass rush, right? Like he's one of the reasons why their pass rush is so strong and so sound. I was actually very upset when the Eagles drafted him because I liked him a lot. And I wanted him to go anywhere but a team in the NFC East. Like Derek Barnett's a monster, right? We've seen what Leonard Fournette out of LSU has been able to do with Jacksonville, right? Punished Pittsburgh last week to the tune of over 100 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Right? He always punishes Pittsburgh, and it's something that has been fun to watch. To go, yeah, I watched all of these guys in college, and so for me, that's where a lot of this joy comes in. Is that it adds another dimension of watching the NFL for me because I get the extra joy of having watched that guy in college, right? Which is something that I had to learn to love because I did not love college football as much as I do now, and I appreciate all of that stuff. So some of the SEC underclassmen that I am looking forward to in the NFL include Minkah Fitzpatrick out of Alabama. In fact, there's a lot of Alabama guys on this list because Alabama is a powerhouse that produces talent. I feel like we always know this. I think what's surprising about Alabama is the number of offensive guys that I'm actually excited to see on Sunday, right? Minkah Fitzpatrick, defensive back, but he's very, I don't know how tall Minkah Fitzpatrick is, but in terms of the way that he plays, the style in which he plays, the physicality, receivers at the line, Minkah Fitzpatrick reminds me of Richard Sherman. He does. And I, in terms of the intelligence too, and making aware plays, I am a huge fan of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I look forward to watching him on Sundays. I feel like that's a first rounder. Now, I feel like that's also not a very bold statement. Alabama, if you're an underclassman leaving Alabama to go to the NFL, you are in all likelihood a first rounder, early second rounder at worst. Right? Minkah Fitzpatrick is going somewhere in the first. Along with Calvin Ridley out of Alabama, who I also like. And I think that Calvin Ridley didn't necessarily get it going in the national title game, though I think that a lot of that had to do with the pressure that Georgia was able to get on Jalen Hurts early. But I like Calvin Ridley a lot. I'd like to see Calvin Ridley go to a team like Baltimore because he's so fast, right? Like, you could just absolutely tear the top of the defense. I'd love to see Calvin Ridley with Joe Flacco because Flacco's got a nice deep ball, right? Like, Flacco doesn't throw everything well. He's largely inconsistent in short to intermediate passes, deep ball. And if he got a young, speedy, tall, physical receiver, I can't imagine how much more freaky the Ravens would be. They have the cream of the crop last year. And they still very nearly made the playoffs. So I'd like to see Calvin Ridley on a team like that. I also like to see Bo Scarborough somewhere, right? And I think that we're getting back around to running backs in the NFL. So I'll just talk about really quickly John Kelly from Tennessee. He's underrated. And he's going to probably wind up going somewhere late in the second round, maybe even early third, because no one's paying attention to him. And I should point out that they didn't pay very much attention to Alvin Kamara either. Tennessee's been underwhelming. And so people haven't been paying attention to a lot of these Tennessee backs. But John Kelly has been great. Darius Geis has been great. Bo Scarborough has been great. You've got a lot of great running backs to choose from if you're going to choose from some of these SEC underclassmen. They're all fantastic. All of them. And they've all declared for the NFL draft. They're all going, right? So we're the next time we see them will be the Underwear Olympics, the NFL Draft Combine. These guys are talented guys, and we're seeing the running back have greater importance in the NFL. Not necessarily the importance that it used to have, right? Like, you still remember the running backs that could take over games. Walter Payton, take over games. Even guys that are not on that level, right? Like John Riggins, take over games. You just hand the ball to Riggo if you had a lead, and you just knew it was safe. There are different standards of what makes a running back great in today's game, but I remember the doom and gloom of the, late 2000s, early 10s, where people were just screaming about how, well, you don't need a running back anymore. Running backs are dying. This is going to be a passing game in 15 years. We're only going to throw the ball. We're going to line up in shotgun and throw the ball. No one's ever going to run the ball again. And who has had the biggest impact this last season in the league? Oh, Leonard Fournette, rookie running back. Kareem Hunt, rookie running back. Alvin Kamara, rookie running back. Christian McCaffrey, rookie running back. Like, we're looking at the running back returning to the NFL as having value. Now, here's the thing, though. Your running back needs to catch. Like, that's the issue. Like, that's the hook there. You have a running back with no hands, that guy's worthless. But Leonard Fournette can catch. We know Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara can. Kareem Hunt can catch. Great between the tackles doesn't mean that they can't catch. They can kill you in space too. You don't have that, you don't have a good running back. But I know John Kelly can catch. Right? I don't know how much of it happened at Alabama, but it happened every now and then. Bo Scarborough can catch. right? Like some of these guys are underrated in that ability. And being able to pound the ball between the tackles will absolutely rejuvenate a quarterback, whichever quarterback these guys wind up being paired with. And I'm really excited to watch these running backs on Sunday. Right? A lot of defensive players that I'm excited to watch. Arden Key from LSU played just about every defensive position for them. Defensive end. He was outside linebacker. What didn't he do? But he could cover running backs in space really well. Already mentioned Minkah Fitzpatrick, but Carlton Davis from Auburn is another one of those defensive back type players. And again, we've seen what a defensive back can do to absolutely revolutionize a team's defense. And I think that you look no further than what happened with the New Orleans Saints, right? That Alvin Kamara gets a lot of credit for the rejuvenation of the Saints offense. And I think a lot of times in that shuffle, we forget that the Saints defense underwent a renaissance as well. And a lot of that had to do with Marshawn Lattimore, right? Like that young man, Marshawn Lattimore, made it so that you couldn't pick your favorite receiver and throw him the ball. Couldn't do it. Which is important. And that meant the rest of the defense they didn't have to be great. You just have to be good. Right? Marshawn Lattimore's got perfect technique. And he's very physical. I wouldn't say Carlton Davis has perfect technique. But I'd say that he's very good. Right? Like he is a stud. Absolutely. And he shows up for a defense, and I'm telling you, he's going to help somebody's defense undergo a similar renaissance where you don't just score on this team all day. Like that's one of the reasons why the Saints were able to become so good very quickly, right? Like you've already got Drew Brees, but Drew Brees is aging. You give him a running back that takes some of the pressure off of him, and you put a defender on the other side of the ball that makes it so that he doesn't have to win a shootout every week. You add Carlton Davis to your team, you don't have to win a shootout every week, right? Gus Malzahn knows this very well because Auburn was on shaky ground to start the season. Jarrett Stidham trying to get his sea legs underneath him. And that to me is one of the more interesting things. Now, I just got an interesting story, by the way, that just popped in. So let me just shift gears over to that really quickly because that is alarming. And I need to read up on this. But Mike Tomlin has stepped down as Steelers head coach. Right now, people have been criticizing Mike Tomlin ever since they lost to the Jaguars on Sunday, that they weren't prepared, that they were looking ahead to the Patriots. People were criticizing Mike Tomlin, and I think very rightfully so, by the way. You're the head coach of the football team. Winning is your responsibility. And if you do not win, then you kind of got to go. But for Mike Tomlin to willingly be the one that would step down, because we know one thing about the Steelers organization. I think the Steelers organization, the Packers organization, and the Cowboys organization, more so than most, family. I would say the Raiders also. They feel like a sort of family. You don't just get fired from those teams. There's a certain level of leeway they allow you because they trust you. That because they trust you. So Mike Tomlin was, I think, bound to get that leeway, that if Mike Tomlin wanted to come back next year to be the head coach, he's going to get it. Right? Because the Cowboys would treat Jason Garrett the same way. The Packers treat Mike McCarthy the same way. And dang, the Raiders went back and found a coach that was previously one of their coaches. And there's a lot of loyalty within these franchises. Like Mike Tomlin choosing to step away is a big deal. And I also don't know what the Steelers do as a following act. Because again, and I mentioned this yesterday, when Mike Mularkey and the Titans mutually parted ways. And when Bruce Arians stepped down as the Cardinals head coach, the Cardinals and the Titans are in a tough spot because all the coaching candidates, all the top coaching candidates, they're gone. They're gone. Now Pittsburgh is in that same spot. A lot of the guys that you would love to talk to see who can fill this job, guys are not available any longer. They're gone. And I don't know where they go from here. What's the follow-up act? Right? Do you stick with the team identity? Do you try and get somebody who's going to be that hard-nosed, tough, defensive-minded coach? Or does your game become the offensive game because you still have the killer bees, right? You have that fast team over there. You got Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger, arguably the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league right now. What do you do? That's a tough spot, right? And this is interesting because a lot of this stuff, there winds up being rumors. Like there were rumors that Bruce Arians wanted to step down as head coach. He denied those rumors up until, he stepped down as head coach. There were rumors about Mike Mularkey. There were rumors around these things. The fact that Mike Tomlin, I didn't hear any rumors. Let me put it this way. I spend a lot of time investigating the NFL rumor mill. I would argue nobody spends more time investigating the NFL rumor mill than me. Unsubstantiated sources. I have sources. I just can't cite any of them because I can't trust any of them. But nobody spends more time around the NFL rumor mill than me. And I didn't hear anything about Mike Tomlin considering stepping down. So this is very, very much out of the blue. Yeah, Tommy, talk about an M. Night Shyamalan plot twist that nobody saw coming. I didn't see that one. I didn't see that one at all. It's pretty unbelievable. I'm actually not sure what to do now, because that puts them in an interesting spot. And if you're a coach, right, more attractive than others, I would say that the Steelers' job is the most attractive job if you're a coach. If you want to have an opportunity to win right away, to go to the playoffs right away, to have a team that's already built, ready-made, that's the way to go, man. Steelers. I like the Titans. Like the Titans are a really good team, but the Titans need one or two more pieces to me. I think they need another wide receiver. I think they need a middle linebacker. And I think that they need an explosive big play player somewhere, right? Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray have done great jobs as the running backs, but I don't think that they're the explosive big play guys, right? And I would say the same for Corey Davis. And maybe Corey Davis can become that. I don't know. He was a rookie after all. But they need to find the guy that makes explosive plays, because it can't just be Mariota all the time. You ask him to make the explosive plays. You ask him to run a hurry-up offense. You ask him to do a lot for a very young quarterback, for a team that's still developing. But I'd say the Titans' job is the next best job, and I'd say the Cardinals' job is the worst job available, because I don't know what they even do. They don't have the quarterback situation ironed out, even though there are rumors that the offensive coordinator of Minnesota would go to Arizona, that he likes the Arizona job, and that he would take Case Keenum with him. Case Keenum. Right? If Minnesota were willing to go with Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Bradford. Bridgewater of the two of those. Sam Bradford can't stay healthy. But I don't know if you're Minnesota, if you'd even let Case Keenum leave. Why would you? Why would you throw that away? Like, he clearly can play, right? He may have been a journeyman before, but even when he was with the Rams last year, Case Keenum showed signs that he can really play. Right? Like, I think that you just had Jeff Fisher as your head coach, so you were bound to be permanently offensively stunted. Right? Whereas you're in Minnesota and Mike Zimmer is the defensive coach that lets the offense do its thing. Like, he doesn't interfere. He doesn't try to run it. He doesn't try to make it happen. So yeah, I'm very interested in seeing how this coaching stuff is going to turn out. Because if you're the offensive coordinator for whose name escapes me right now, who says you now even want to go to Arizona. Would not Pittsburgh be your ideal job? Like, yeah, you could go to Arizona and take Case Keenum with you, or you could go to Pittsburgh, where there's already Ben Roethlisberger. He's already there. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com. There's a man who stands to make $99,000 from a Super Bowl bet. Next.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
All schools in the Chattanooga area are closed. That includes colleges like UTC and Chat State, even Bryan College. Emergency Management Agency opened the Emergency Operations Center at 6 a.m. with first responder agencies to assist with any winter weather issues. Drive safe. Make sure to turn on your headlights. Watch out for black ice and slippage on overpasses. Kevin McCulloch from Hamilton County was arrested after Chattanooga cops say he led them on a long car chase all through Chattanooga and into Georgia. Cops say he hurtled down the road at over 100 miles per hour, darting in and out of traffic, posing a great danger to the public. Deputies say the vehicle was stolen. McCulloch was arrested. Catch the Sean Hannity Show every weekday from 3 to 6 on Nooga Radio. Val St. John, Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7 News Now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nooga Radio, 92.7 FM.
Oh, man, rush. I've got to get stuff for the party. Where can I go that's going to give me a wide selection of beer, wines, and spirits? Oh, I got it. I'll go to Harry's Wine and Spirits, Signal Mountain. Maybe East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd. I could go to Riley's Wines and Spirits in Hickson. Wow, look at the huge selection in here. Look at these great prices. Amazing. Oh, yeah, I'm going to find something for my lady, too. I'm going to make this party a success.
Make your party a success when you stop in at Harry's Wine and Spirits in Signal Mountain, East Brainerd Wine and Spirits in East Brainerd, and Riley's Wine and Spirits in Hickson. An automated nuclear missile defense system has suddenly entered into launch mode, and you are the only one who can stop it. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Your team has just been infected with a deadly virus. Your only hope? There, in an abandoned farmhouse. Escape Experience Chattanooga. Handcuffed in a maximum security prison, you have an hour to flee. Escape Experience Chattanooga. These escape scenarios and more at Chattanooga's best escape room, game, and team building platform. Call now. Slots are limited. Register online at escapeexperience.com/Chattanooga. Escape Experience Chattanooga. If your computer is running slow, if you have viruses, if someone called you asking to get into your computer, just say no. If a screen pops up on your computer saying your data is going to be deleted and you have to call this number, don't call it. You need to call Affordable Computers. You wouldn't invite a stranger to come into your house to look at all your books and records, so why would you invite someone to look at your records on your computer? With one wrong click of the mouse, you could be allowing access into your entire system. At Affordable Computers, we can stop them now. Don't be fooled by scammers and pop-ups that tell you must call this number or your hard drive is going to be deleted. You need to call Affordable Computers. Call Affordable Computers now. Microsoft is never going to call you. Microsoft is never going to ask you to call them. If you see that on your screen, you are being scammed. Stop and call Affordable Computers. 423-499-1975. That's 423-499-1975. In Fort Oglethorpe, call 706-858-5888. That's 706-858-5888. Affordable Computers.
95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM.
Expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through your nighttime. Cold overnight, lows mid and upper 20s. Now for your Wednesday, look for some sunshine with a breeze out of the north, though. Light cold highs up around 40 with more mainly dry and cold weather expected through Friday. Celebrate the new year with Dixieland Fireworks, locally owned with the largest selection around. A Black Hat dealer with the lowest prices in Dixie. Dixieland Fireworks, just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Sworn Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News, NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Tulis, streaming strong at NoogaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
Like I said, I spent a lot of time around the NFL rumor mill. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, here on 92.7 FM. I spent a lot of time around the NFL rumor mill. A lot of this is Twitter. I spend a fair amount of time on the Twitter. And so I discovered on the Twitter that the Atlanta Falcons are bringing back Steve Sarkisian as offensive coordinator with full confidence of the staff. Now, I think that Steve Sarkisian can improve as the offensive coordinator. And we saw, by the way, the Atlanta Falcons get better as the season went on. I think they were adjusting to his style, right? And I think that Dan Quinn has the right idea, which is that you don't want to go around changing your offensive systems from year to year to year to year. You have one guy, you let him bring in his system, you let the players get used to the system, and that's that. Right? And that seems like the kind of person that Dan Quinn is. Like, that is very much his personality. That's who he is. This is very unsurprising. But I'll say this. Steve Sarkisian was not great last year. He was not great. And anytime, and I still stand by this, anytime your offense has Julio Jones, a wide receiver, in the last 2 years, numbers that are rivaled only by Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr., despite the fact that he did not produce very much. If you're going to have Julio Jones, a man who once ran a 4.4 40 with a broken foot, involved in the offense, and I don't care how. I don't care how. I don't care if you keep throwing deep balls until you lose the game. I don't care if you throw bubble screens. I don't care if you hand him the ball in the backfield like a running back. I don't care what you have to do. Line him up as a tight end. Do whatever it is that you have to do to get Julio Jones the ball because he's the best football player on your team. Period. End of story. And that Kyle Shanahan understood this better than anybody and is in large part the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers right now, and that Matt Ryan was the MVP of the league last year because Kyle Shanahan understood this. Get the ball to Julio. Get the ball to Julio. Get the ball to Julio. I don't have understanding of NFL plays. Okay, like I get them and I get the concepts, but vaguely, right? Like I'm still a fan ultimately. If I had Julio Jones on my team, whatever the plays are that make Julio Jones open, those are the plays that I want to run. Right? It can be done. It's been done. Get that guy involved in the football game. So maybe Steve Sarkisian figures that out next season. Or maybe he doesn't. And all the Falcons fans who were flipping out on Twitter, because I mean, Falcons fans were really flipping out on Twitter. Right? Just a bunch of memes that just, I can't even explain them all to you. But they're just reactions and they're great. They are great. Falcons fans really care about this. They're not fans of Sark right now. I get it. But I would say give him another chance. Give him another year because, again, switching coordinators from year to year to year. I mean, the next guy that you bring in, if you don't like Sarkisian, that guy better be dynamic. Like, that guy better be great. Sarkisian that you like. But give him another chance, because I don't think switching systems annually is necessarily the best way to find success either. You're listening to All New Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com, Clutch with Keon Rose. Another bit of coaching news transactions. Has found a new home. His home is now in Arizona. And Kevin Sumlin a good chunk of change. Has signed a 5-year, $14.5 million deal with the University of Arizona. And Aggie fans think that's too much. Here's what I need Aggie fans to know. And I know they don't want to hear this. Clean out your ears, Texas A&M fans. Kevin Sumlin. He was a good coach. He was 51-26 with your team. He's 86-43 lifetime as a coach. Right? Including 4 years, by the way, at Houston, which historically has been awful. Right? And now he's going to Arizona at 6. They've recruited a nice, young, talented quarterback, and we know what Kevin Sumlin can do with nice, young, talented quarterbacks. And he's going to the Pac-12. And I'm not saying you made the wrong choice. But Jimbo Fisher better be good. Here's the thing that can't happen. Kevin Sumlin is successful before Jimbo Fisher is. That can't happen. Another thing that can't happen, Kevin Sumlin is successful longer than Jimbo Fisher is, because Jimbo Fisher's got like a 10-year deal over there. Jimbo Fisher got a job at Texas A&M, essentially on the back of one national title victory with Jameis Winston. Because he hasn't been good since. He nor Jameis, by the way, have been good since. You could make the very strong argument. Jimbo Fisher and Jameis Winston have gone nowhere but downhill since they won that national title together. Because the following year, man, that was some of the worst Florida State football I've ever seen in my life. In my life. And I have a lot of family in Florida, which is how it is that I wind up watching a decent amount of Florida State games that I don't really want to be watching. That is some of the worst Florida State football I've ever seen in my life. And it got worse. It isn't Jimbo's fault necessarily, right? He had DeAndre Francois at quarterback. DeAndre Francois looked very promising and good before he got injured. The fact of the matter is, though, that Florida State went from looking like a good football team to who is this collection of random individuals calling themselves a team, and why are they allowed to put on uniforms and compete? Week in and week out. And that's the guy that the Aggies hired to replace Kevin Sumlin. So I'm saying I hope Jimbo Fisher is worth it, because I believe Kevin Sumlin's going to be successful at Arizona. There's less pressure. It's an offensively minded league out there in the Pac-12 to do fine. And Jimbo Fisher better do fine too. Otherwise, what did you just do? Right? Like, what on earth did you just do? You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on all new Nooga Radio, noogaradio.com, 92.7 FM. So this is a story that I really found to be fascinating, because I'm not a gambling man, though sometimes I consider that I probably should be a little bit. Right? Just because I see the money that people make sometimes, and I'm like, I know a thing or two about a thing or two is all I'm saying. Fairly often. To make a huge ton of money on a Super Bowl bet that he made. Because you can make preseason bets in the NFL, and you can bet on teams. Vegas releases odds for teams very early. So you can bet on teams before the season starts. Who's going to make it to the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? And it's one thing for a player to be confident in themselves, right? Jaguars defensive lineman Malik Jackson said in July that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to win the Super Bowl this season, right? And then it sounded silly. Now he sounds, damn clairvoyant. But the Jacksonville Jaguars had 100-1 odds that they were going to make the Super Bowl. Right? And he bet $999. in William Hill Sportsbook in Vegas. He bet $990, right? Just less than $1,000. That the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to win Super Bowl 52. Which means if the Jaguars win Super Bowl 52, my man is about to walk away with $99,000 on a $990 bet. Because he believed in the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he is the only one. He's the one guy. Right? Someone bet $53,700 that the Patriots would win the Super Bowl. You think he's not even going to make as much money as the other guy if the Patriots win? Right? Like, that's crazy. That's wild to me. Would I do that, though? Like, part of me wonders why it is that people don't do that more often, though. Just, like, find a team that's not really good, but kind of coming up, and just bet on them. It's like a yearly bet. I don't feel like that bankrupt you. The problem is, though, if you're the kind of guy that goes out there and you bet on the Jacksonville Jaguars, because what the story says here on CBSSports.com by John Breach is the story. What the story says is that 5 days after the Patriots won the Super Bowl, this guy just walked into a sports book and bet on the Jaguars. So this tells me one of two things. That guy is the biggest Jaguars fan on earth. Gambling problem. Right? Like, he's not keeping that $99,000. It'll be gone by next week. He'll probably lose it all in the slots. That's what that tells me. But because, like, I don't know if this is like strategic or if he just has a gambling issue. Like, he's just got a gambling issue. Right? It doesn't feel like something smart happened here. Like, we had a guy that was ahead of the curve. Nah, I just feel like we have a guy with a gambling problem. A guy with a major gambling problem. Right? Like, there is a guy, the guy that bet $53,000 on the Patriots. He's going to win. His net victory is going to be $150,000. $100,000 for betting. Or he stands to gain $150,000 for betting $53,000. The guy that bet on the Jaguars is going to make $99,000 off of $990. Like, $990, that's a month of rent. Like, that's not even that much money when you think about how much he's getting back. I'm rooting for this guy and his gambling addiction. But get help, man. Either you're a Jaguars fan or you should get help. Because I can't imagine what the other scenarios of that would be. You're listening to all new Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. And on 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm just saying, that guy has to have a gambling problem. I wish you knew what time of day he walked into the sports book, too. Because if, like, Buddy walked into the sports book at, like, 3 a.m., I put down $990 on the Jags. First off, he was probably hammered out of his skull. But secondly, he definitely has a gambling problem, right? Like, we know he has a gambling problem. We're absolutely sure he has a gambling problem. Anyway, I was looking at the NFL draft. We were talking a little bit about this earlier, about some of the underclassmen that I find to be... But I just want to take a step back and look at some of the overall players in this draft, because I do think, and I do see a situation very, very clearly emerging. Not necessarily with the underclassmen, but where the SEC is just going to dominate the first round of the draft again. And not only we're going to see a lot of Alabama people, which we usually see, we're going to see a lot of Georgia guys too. Right? CBS Sports has their mock draft up. Top SEC guys currently are... They've got Minkah Fitzpatrick going to the Colts at 3, which I think that's a great draft pick for them. They've got, what do they got? They got Roquan Smith, linebacker, Georgia. Roquan had a great year last year. And we've all seen what you can do with a middle linebacker at defense. I mean, we've seen the Brian Urlachers and Ray Lewises of years past. We see Luke Kuechly now for the Panthers. When you have a guy that plays that position, great coverage ability, play recognition skills, that's going to be a good fit on any defense. But they have him going number 10 to the Raiders. I mean, I can't imagine that a lot of these SEC guys go as low. They have Calvin Ridley going to the Packers at 14, which that's a scary idea. Because how long has it been since Aaron Rodgers had a great receiver, since Jordy Nelson was in his prime? I don't know. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has had a great wideout since prime Jordy Nelson. Because Jordy Nelson still is capable, but he's not anywhere near what he was before he tore his ACL. We see Darius Geis, according to the mock draft, go into number 16, the Baltimore Ravens, which the Ravens have Alex Collins at running back. But we've seen it take over the league this year. Running back duos. We had Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. We had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara up there in Carolina with the Panthers. You've got Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. When we've seen running back duos in the league, that's very few teams are doing the one running back thing. Main back. And I think that's just the Rams with Gurley that I can think of. Maybe the Chiefs with Kareem Hunt. Maybe them also. But that's about it. I can't think of anybody else that's not running some kind of two running back system. Right? I think that Tevin Bryan, defensive tackle, they have him going to from Florida. They have him going to the Titans. The Titans could use help all over that defense. I think that they should focus on getting a linebacker. If the best player available is a defensive lineman, then yeah, go ahead and get that just to get pressure, right? Like that's something that's going to be increasingly important in that division, in the AFC South. Because we're learning something about Blake Bortles, which is that if you just let him stand there, he's going to run, right? I don't know that Blake Bortles is a killer. I refuse to believe and flip my opinion that Blake Bortles is suddenly a great quarterback. But Blake Bortles can make you pay in a variety of ways, and he's starting to figure these things out. That he's gonna take off and run if you don't pay attention to him and you don't get pressure on him. And he's quick enough. And if you let him stand there and look down the middle of the field, especially when his receivers cross right in front of his face, he can make those throws, right? He's not complete garbage. Your Tennessee, getting pressure on the quarterback is going to be a priority for you. Players they have in the first round. This to me, I know that I do have something of an SEC bias on this because I do watch so much SEC football that it's impossible for me to not necessarily be swayed by these things. But I do think that someone is going to benefit from not just Darius Geis at running back, but there's Cameron Petway, there's John Kelly, there's Kerryon Johnson, there's Bo Scarborough. That's a ton of running backs, and I think all of those guys are quality. I think someone's going to benefit at wide receiver from not just Calvin Ridley, but Antonio Callaway, from Christian Kirk, from Texas A&M. They're going to benefit from a number of these guys that are fast, big, physical, athletic, great hands. All right, go up and pursue the football kind of guys. Right, and I understand that there are players from other conferences that are worth looking at. You know, like Saquon Barkley from the Big Ten. I mean, that guy ought to be a top 3 pick. You know, if you don't take Saquon Barkley in the top 5 this draft, I don't know what you're thinking. Many guys here from all over the SEC that I can't imagine that the first 2 rounds are not littered with all of these people because I've seen them all play. And I know that they're not just good, they're great. Absolutely great. And I'm starting to like the pick there for the Titans. Taking Taven Bryan from Florida. Because they need a versatile guy on their defensive line. They like to give a lot of looks. They like to run a lot of stunts. They need a guy that's athletic and quick. He's definitely all of those things. That guy is tremendous. So maybe that's a great pick for the Titans. I still think that they should look for a running back, though. Not a running back, a linebacker, though. I mean, I think that to me is the quintessential piece that they need. Anywho, you've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on all new Nooga Radio and NoogaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate. Remember, folks, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch and stay safe. I'll see you in 24 hours.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott powers around the outside. Michael McDonald